Okay, folks, it's about the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us for Inner Circle 102, and this is what we typically call the Digital Cafe. This will be audio and video embeds. We know that with Inner Circle, this has been a little bit of a sticking point with folks, and I appreciate that you're all part of this presentation today. I just wanted to say before we get started, as always, these are being recorded. And we will then, as soon as this presentation is through, I'll start carving this up, and I promise I'll send it out to you before the end of the day. So please feel free to share this with other folks. The information is only as good as many people as we can get it to. So please feel free to pass the links along to the appropriate folks in your newsroom, whether it be night editors, sports editors, reporters, whomever you think should be part of this. So yeah, just make sure that you get the information out as often as possible. And so we'll get started now. Summer Moore is a digital project manager with us here in Austin. She's been at the Center for News and Design for a few months. Before that, she was working remotely. And I am primarily here for support, I would say, wouldn't you? To bounce things off of, Summer?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I just turned your headphones down. Without further ado, let's get started with audio and video embeds.
Thanks, Tim. So today we're going to go over a few things. First is, what are the expectations as far as Inner Circle is concerned? How do you know what stories to attach audio and video files to? So we're going to talk a little bit about how we find that information in our analytics. What is an appropriate audio video to attach to my story? Who should be attaching those? And then finally, how do I do it? So we're going to go over all of this today. I'm going to move a little bit quickly since we only have 30 minutes, but like always, this will be recorded, sent to you. All the links will be sent to you, and definitely reach out to me if you have any questions. Okay, so what are the expectations? So this year, we added this to Inner Circle for newsrooms with staff of 23 and above. 7 out of 10 of your top stories, according to analytics, need to have an audio or video element. For 9 to 22, 5 out of 10 of your top stories. And for 1 through 8, 1 out of 5 of your top stories. So how I'm doing this when I go through and check these when I'm doing Inner Circle evaluations is I'm going to show you exactly how I go in and do that through everybody. I'm using everybody's Google Analytics. I'm doing it the same for everybody. So you can see exactly how I'm doing it, and you can do it yourself so you can see the same information. So we have 2 different analytics things that people are using out in the field. The first is Google Analytics, and the second is Parse.ly. So I'm going to go through both. So this is a special report that I'm going to be sending out to you, but this is for our bigger newsrooms. This is basically just going to filter out so that you're only looking at articles, so that you're not looking at landing pages, you're not looking at obits, you're not looking at... Oh, sorry, I just saw that. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you're not looking at...
I'm taking care of all the behind-the-scenes fun, Summer. You just go ahead and deliver the message.
Okay.
Yes.
You're not going to see like photos, photo galleries, that type of stuff. This is only stories. So these are the things we're going to be looking at, and I'll send this special report out. So all you have to do is find yourself. When it says select a view like that, you're going to find your own paper, and then just make sure that you're looking at the full website. So you'll see down there for the News Journal, there's a couple different things that they have. They have the app, they have their desktop, they have, the dev, they have mobile, the e-edition. Just make sure that you're picking the one that says .com. That is your full site. So make sure you're choosing that one. And then this sort of view is going to show up here. So make sure that you're picking the dates, which is on the right-hand corner there. Make sure you're picking the week that you want to look at, whether it's this week, last week, however many days, or, however long you want to look at.
By the way, just to go back really quickly, because this is such an important piece, part of the reason for the implementation of this is not only to make sure that we're doing this properly, But also, if you don't have, I know the biggest newsrooms are looking at this kind of data. Some of our mid-size and smaller papers are not. I mean, this is a really great opportunity to not just embed stuff in, but to also look at your analytics, make it part of your workflow. Hey, I'm going to look at so that I can be embedding, but also while I'm there, here are the numbers. That's the key to this, is that what are the numbers and why are they there? If a story is trending consistently, are we doing more about that story in the future? So.
And again, this is exactly how I'm doing it when I'm evaluating. So there's no secrets here. So then next you would just go to export, excuse me, on the top there, on the top right, and you can export it however you want, but I use Google Sheets just because that's easier for me. You export it to a Google Sheet, and then it'll give you this Google Sheet here. And then however many stories you chose, will show up with the page views, and that is ranking. So that's your top 10 stories right there. And you can look at 20, you can look at 50, you can look at however many you want. But now it's in a Google Sheet, so you can do whatever you want with that data. You can add it to running analytics. You can send it out to whoever you want to send it to. Or how I do to check each story is I copy the page title and I stick it into Google. And then the story comes up and I can check if that story has a video and audio element. So that's how I'm looking at them, and that's how you can find your own information. So if you don't want to do the special report, if you're a smaller newsroom and you want to make sure you're looking at everything, or if you just don't want to use that special report and you want to see everything in Google Analytics, you're going to want to go to behavior over here on the left-hand side, and under site content, there's all pages. So that will show up your top. That will show your top pages there that you can see. You can't see the full page here, but under that page, all of your top pages will show up there. And again, you can look at 10, you can look at 250, you can look at however many you want to look at. And then again, you just go through that export process in order to get that information out of Google Analytics so that you can share it out to everyone.
By the way, we typically don't take questions on these, but since this is such an important topic, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box, and I'll make sure that Summer gets an answer to them.
In Parse.ly, you're going to pick posts, and then make sure that you pick your time. So there's last 12 hours is what's up there. You can pick your dates there. So the same thing in Parse.ly, and then you'll see the way that it shows up in Parse.ly. You click on that little tiny blue caret, which is on the right-hand side, and you'll go to the post itself. Okay, so once you get used to doing that, do that a few times. Make sure you're checking out, how your paper is doing. You can start to see trends. You can start to see what people are reading, what they're generally being attracted to. So you can start to try and predict trending stories. You know that every time you put out something about the weather, every time you put something out about food, every time you put something out about crime, you know it's going to spike, right? Because you're looking at your analytics and you know what's going on. So that's how you can start to add those audio and video elements before something even trends. But that doesn't mean that you don't watch live analytics. It's super important to have live analytics somewhere in your newsroom where people can see it, so that when something does start spiking that maybe you didn't expect, you can make sure that somebody's going in there and adding that audio and video. Okay, so the kinds of things that we want to attach as far as especially video, don't think it has to be produced. This is not something that you have to spend a long time producing.
And that's the first thing that we hear is, how am I supposed to possibly put together an hour-long video for each of my top 7 stories or 7 of my top 10 stories? That's not what we're looking for here, right? I mean,
exactly. And we're going to talk about how to make sure that that is part of your workflow. It's easier when it's the hardest thing to do is to be sitting in your newsroom, see something spike, and then having to figure out, how can I scramble and put together a video quickly, get somebody out to the scene. What you want to do is just start building it into the workflow so that when somebody is out and about, they're taking video every time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But just keeping in mind that, especially when you're dealing with crime or traffic or anything like that, raw video from the scene is really the best video that you can get. If you can get a stand-up, if somebody's talking, if you've got the fire chief, if you've got, the police and somebody's talking, grab a clip of that. But don't think that this is something that you have to put together and it's going to take hours and hours and hours and you hold your story because you're waiting for the video. No, just raw video is totally fine. And then again, like two birds with one stone, use Facebook Live, use YouTube Live, and then attach it later. I mean, you've got two things that you're getting done there. You're sharing it with your audience right onto Facebook, right onto YouTube, and then you can turn around and attach it to the story. So who's doing it well? Let's look at some really good examples from across the company. Making sure that you're jumping on things you know will trend, getting ahead of it. So breaking news we know is going to do well. Weather we know is going to do well. Openings and closings and crime, right? And then what I think Wicked Local does really well that I wanted to point out is share, share, share. So if you've taken video of something and you know there are other properties around you that are going to be able to use that video, set up some sort of communication so you guys can be sharing those videos, sharing that audio. Guess what? It turns the work in half, right? If you're not having to take video everywhere, if you're not having to worry about that, if it's trending somewhere else, likely it'll trend for you. Make sure that you're sharing those videos as well.
In this case, of course, Marblehead being, I think, a one-person, maybe two-person newsroom, the storm cleanup continues in Marblehead. I'm guessing that the storm hit the entire New England region. So obviously this would be, if you don't have video in there in your, the next town over with the publication, why this will still work. So make logical decisions on that.
Exactly. And this is how, most of Wicked Local passed, is because they all had the same video, but they were grouped, and that's fine. Okay. One of the other things I wanted to point out was the Hawkeye. Hawkeye has this great stand-up. They've got their crime reporter. He just turns the camera on himself and talks about the story. It's very simple, and it's added a lot of views for them. And that's something really easily you can do just right in the newsroom. A lot of our newsrooms are doing From the Newsroom podcast. That's another thing that can be all kinds of stories, so it can be attached to all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be just food. It can be all kinds of stories, and then you can be more flexible in adding it to a lot of different things.
Just real quick on that, Burlington, Iowa, the Hawkeye, probably about a 12, maybe 14 person newsroom. So this isn't a huge newsroom. This is how this is what they've gone to, and the numbers on these have done really well. Am I right in saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I should just clarify, because if Radio Rob was listening, he would get upset. From the Newsroom would actually, and I know she means podcast, but those digital audio clips. So you're coming back to the newsroom, you've already recorded with your phone. Why not just put that into From the Newsroom and then embed that into your stories? That's an easy one from most folks, not all, but most folks are already using some type of recording device to record these interviews. Why not just add it right into the story itself? Sorry.
No, that's great. And another piece of low-hanging fruit, how do you get some easy audio that you don't have to produce? Grab the 911 call. I mean, people really like to listen to those types of things. Listen to it first, make sure it's appropriate. But, grabbing that 911 call is going to add, some instant time on site. People are going to be looking to that, and that fulfills this requirement.
And one thing that I've noticed is the newsrooms that at first may have to FOIA these. In some states it's different, but in most it is accessible. You may have to FOIA the first few, but after a while, the dispatchers start to get, comfortable with this, and it becomes a pipeline. So start the process, even if it's difficult at first. At the end, it typically becomes much easier, and those get great numbers, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so say you've got something that's trending or that will trend, and you just don't have anything in your newsroom. You don't have time to put something together. Don't forget that we have generic podcasts. We've got generic videos for you to use. It doesn't have to be directly related to your story. If it's not, just put it down either in the fact box or further down in the story. But there's all kinds of generic things. This day in history can go on any story. We've got the blotter bites,
sure,
which can go on crime stories. So just remember, it doesn't have to be directly related to the story that you're posting. It can be, a little bit off, but just make sure that if you're doing that, it's a little bit further down in the story, and make sure that, you can attach it to every story.
I might add one quick thing. If you are noticing that you have a topic that consistently is trending for you, and you don't have a piece of audio or video for that, that's a really good sign that you should start producing some. And we've had some talks recently with folks who said, well, nothing goes in all of these stories that we have. Well, maybe that crime thing that the Hawkeye is doing, if that's the big thing that's drawing or trending for you, why not start doing that? I know that Nick in Northwest Florida does similar things, and those also get good numbers. So just think about we're just trying to maximize the potential in the most trending articles. And if you don't have content to fit in there, you might want to start producing it.
Exactly. So I think the biggest issue that we face or that we hear is about workflow. A lot of times you might have like one digital editor, or you have one person that's been responsible for this in your newsroom. I think that's a really hard way to do this. I think the easiest way to make sure that all of your trending, to make sure that you pass Inner Circle, is to have audio and video on as many stories as possible. And the best person to do that is the person who's writing the story. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're training your entire newsroom to know how to do this. It's very simple. I'll show you in the next slide. We have written out instructions for how to do this. We have videos for how to do this. Teach everybody in the newsroom how to embed things, and then just make it an expectation. So every story that you produce should have either a piece of audio or video attached to it. Then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about something going back and adding things later. It's there from the start. You can train people, and then just make it an expectation. And then so this thing on the right here, this breaking news card, this is from the Austin Statesman. I think this is a really great way to set up expectations in your newsroom. And when you're breaking news, this is how we expect you to do it. And then right there, it says go Facebook Live, and you automatically have a video for every time that you have breaking news. And then you can go and attach that later to the story. So I think, making these just a part of everybody's workflow is a lot easier.
Just real quick, Rob asking, did you see the question? And this is something that we'll be expanding on in the future, but.
Yeah. So right now we do have some generic videos that are coming from Bucks County. Yeah. So we've got, I think, a cooking show so far. And we've got something, I think 2 other ones. And that'll be attached to this training when we send it out. But we are going to do more of those. And I think suggestions are always, always, always welcome. Mm-hmm. So if you see something that you're looking for, like, we really should have a national video about this, let us know. And we're more than happy to make that ask. But yeah, there are some generic videos that we're producing now, and we hope to just kind of, ramp that up. So, suggestions are welcome.
Good question, Rob. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the how-to. There's a bunch of how-to on here, which you'll get when Tim sends this out later.
Yeah, the links aren't live right now, but they will be in the slideshow that I send you later today.
Yeah, and so I think the point with all this is it's not super hard in our system, especially when you're dealing with YouTube. It's just putting in, a link or putting in some code, and it plays at the top of your story, embedding audio, and then all of our training videos are also on here. So if you missed the audio clip one that Tim did last month, which is a really good, easy, good training about how to get easy audio clips. If you missed the video training that we did earlier this year, all of that will be attached here. And I think we're going to end early on this one, which is probably okay with everybody. But this is all the stuff that we'll send out later. So you'll have good examples. I have a sheet of people that are doing this well with some examples. I'm going to send out the embed scrubber tool. So making sure that you are scrubbing those embeds, it's really important. You'll have the national podcast and video embed codes, that special Google Analytics report that I showed you. And then I also made another training doc that's got links to a bunch of different stuff that hopefully will help, including that breaking news card. There's also a reporter checklist, which I should have included on here, but I did not. But there's a reporter checklist that we've created that reporters can keep at their desk, that has right there, making sure that they've got an SEO friendly headline, making sure that they've got audio or video attached, making sure that they've got everything. So I think that's a really good thing to share out with your newsroom and to make sure that you're training on. And again, let us know if you have any questions.
Since we have a couple seconds, why don't we walk through? Do you have any other specific examples you'd like to pick? Because I've got, and I'm sorry, that's off just a little in terms of, so Lend Connect, let's go. That's the...
Yeah, I mean, this is like some good, that anytime opening or closing happens in your community. If you've got a new restaurant coming in, that is going to trend. So make sure that you're getting videos up front. And this was a bubble tea place that moved in. So they took a video of that, which was at the top, but maybe it has moved since.
May have been pulled.
It may have been pulled at some point. But anyway, the point is, the openings and closings are going to get good traffic. The generic videos, Steve, are going to be at that same link where the National Podcast embed that also has a tab for video. So they'll be in the same place.
Rockford did a great job adding elements to a story, but then Wilmington embedding the national podcasts.
Yeah, and I think what Wilmington does really well is it's clearly already part of their workflow. On I think nearly every, if not every story that I went to for the Star News had a piece of audio or video attached to it. So it's clearly just part of their workflow.
So just make sure you've got something, and in this case, there is This Day in History plugged right into the middle and looks great. So a great example.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
All right, nice and short and sweet for you. And definitely let us know if you have any questions.
I will send this out before the end of the day. And yeah, if you have anything else, please feel free to reach out. We do want to be able to help as often as possible. And Christy's asking for the phone number, and we're already done. So I will send the whole presentation to her. Thanks, folks, and have a great day.